Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to remind those healthcare executives out there that are from small and rural healthcare organizations that Capstone provides complimentary consultations. As you may know, we help small and rural healthcare organizations to be the provider and employer of choice to keep care local and margins strong. Go to capstoneleadership.net and you can fill out the contact form there or actually self schedule a day and time that works for you. We'd love to partner with you in executing a winning strategy.
And so I think that there are three words that are, I think, most meaningful to me in our vision statement, and that is team, network, and resources. And while we are just a critical access hospital, 25 beds, we sit on a campus of about 30 acres. When we moved here in 1999, we've really been in growth mode that whole time. And I would say particularly since we started our journey to excellence. And so team is really important because, of course, that's one of the things that we focus on very heavily inside the Capstone model, is that everybody has to be rowing that boat in the same direction to make the kinds of sustainable changes you need to have to make your organization great.
Welcome to Culture Change RX, the podcast for healthcare professionals that are committed to creating a thriving workplace culture, improving the experiences of employees and patients, and ultimately unlocking their organization's next level of potential. I'm Sue Tetzlaff, your host and co-founder of Capstone Leadership Solutions. Join me and my insightful guests each week as we share actionable insights for navigating the crucial people side of the business of healthcare. Subscribe now for a weekly dose of Culture Change RX. Now let's dive into this week's conversation where culture change takes center stage.
Welcome to another episode of Culture Change RX. Today, I have a repeat guest, Michelle Franklin. She's in the studio with me today, and we're going to have a great conversation about mission, vision, and values of community hospitals. I'm going to start by having Michelle introduce herself and tell us a little bit about the organization where she serves as the CEO. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Sue. Great to be back again. Sure appreciate it. My name is Michelle Franklin, and I am the CEO at Sullivan County Community Hospital. I'm located in central southwest Indiana and serve as the CEO of a 25-bed critical access hospital here locally. And I've been in this role, for now about 15 or so years, I guess, and have been on our journey to excellence with Capstone since 2016. Very familiar with Capstone and certainly very familiar with the great stuff that it's brought to our organization.
It's been such a pleasure to work with your organization, Michelle, on its journey to excellence. And, I think that certainly plays into the conversation we're going to have today about mission, vision, and values. And just over 3 years ago, you gave me a call and you said, can you come help us relook at our mission, vision, and values? And so I'm just wondering what prompted you to, as a CEO, want to relook at mission, vision, and values, in particular at that point in your organization's history?
Well, we had done that exercise once before, but boy, it had been a very long time ago. So just to set the stage, we had a very old facility in our community, and we actually built a replacement facility and moved to that in 1999. And so when we moved in, everybody felt like we weren't necessarily the same organization that we were when we were in a 1900s building. And so we needed to bring a little bit more life to our mission, vision, and value statement. So we did that, I think, fairly soon after we moved here, if my memory serves me right. And then, of course, as I said, we launched our journey to excellence in 2016. So in 2022, after about 6 years on that journey, the folks who were really very near and dear to that journey said, We just feel like we've sort of outgrown our mission and vision. We're so much more than definitely what we were when we moved into this building, but so much more than what we are since we've begun that journey 6 years ago. And so the whole idea was to gather our board of trustees, and many of those in 2022 were fairly new, and to engage them in some dialogue around what we were doing, and maybe to provide a bit of a forum to educate them about the journey to excellence, because we'd been doing it for so long that it was just second nature to us, but not necessarily for the board. And so I did call you and said, look, we need some help. Yeah, I thought it was a really, really great exercise for not just our board, but for some key internal stakeholders to really sort of challenge our thought about what the organization was here for, what the organization could provide to our patients, to our families, to our community. But I'm also a real firm believer that we have to take care of each other too. So what is it that we provide to our internal folks as well? And so just a really great dialogue that opened up conversation. It was fun. We bantered back and forth. We challenged each other, and I think ended up coming up with a decent product that we could be proud of and could work with. So that's a little bit of history from 2022.
That's a great look back to the last revision in 99 and what prompted that, which seems to make real good sense too. Certainly, you're an organization that is evolving and growing, getting better and growing. And I'm just curious about that final product, mission, vision, and values. Were there key words or phrases that really stand out to you now, 3 years later, to be those key words or concepts that are really driving that evolution that you just keep making as an organization?
Yeah, I think so. When we moved in and we developed that new mission statement, it was very, very long. Our value statement was very, very long. And we ended up in 22 coming up with a kind and compassionate team providing access to a network of premier healthcare resources. And our vision statement was a lifelong partnership for care. And those values are care. And so I think that there are three words that are, I think, most meaningful to me in our vision statement, and that is team, network, and resources. And while we are just a critical access hospital, 25 beds, we sit on a campus of about 30 acres. When we moved here in 1999, we've really been in growth mode that whole time. And I would say particularly since we started our journey to excellence. And so team is really important because, of course, that's one of the things that we focus on very heavily inside the capstone model, is that everybody has to be rowing that boat in the same direction to make the kinds of sustainable changes you need to have to make your organization great. And then I think network is really, really, and was really, really important to the people in that room that day, because we feel like that in this growth mode, it's important to do the basic work well. And I think probably most critical access hospitals would say that it's really, really important to have primary care services available in your community, first place that people are going to go to for care. And we feel like we've done that well. And since we've started this capstone journey, we truly have been in growth mode. And it's that constant thing of what can we do next? What does our community need? Where do we think that we have some opportunity to bring some specialists in or to make our provider services even better, because most of us in rural America are challenged with the same kinds of things. How do we get transportation? And when you do have to see a specialist, how can your patients and your families get an hour and a half from your community? It truly is a very, very difficult hardship. And so I think that network is a really important word to all of us, because we have really laid down the gauntlet and said, we're going to be what we need to be for our community. And we're constantly going to be searching for what's the next best thing that we're going to do. And I really believe in my heart that if you're not looking for that next best thing, that your organization is really going to have trouble surviving, especially as the environment just gets more and more difficult to run this kind of business. And then I think the third word is resources. And again, going back to that concept of having primary care, doing primary care well, and using it as your foundation, but consistently looking at how can I mature this organization? We sort of know that we've outgrown what we used to be, and just constantly thinking in that sort of mindset. And I think those are probably the three themes that resonate most to me. And of course, we've been in this community for over 100 years, and we want to continue to be in this community for another 100 years. And so what does that partnership look like? And again, going back to those themes, I think it's making sure that you're providing the things that your community sees as a need.
Mm-hmm. And doing that very well and keeping up with the changing and growing needs of your community. So since the update of the mission, vision, and values, what has happened since then? Like, how do you as the CEO and how do other stakeholders help the mission, vision, and values really be something that guides that growth, guides that improvement, and aren't just words that are kind of like tucked away somewhere and not looked at or talked about?
Well, before we launched into that in 2022, we did have fairly lengthy discussions at our steering committee and at our leadership development days about the fact that we felt like that we were really more than what our mission, vision, and values said, that we had matured way beyond what that language said that we did. And I think that there was a general feeling that, yeah, we're way past that. And so we had already sort of set that tickler in motion to say, here's what we're thinking. Can you validate that for us? Then we did this exercise. And then once we did the exercise and we all sort of agreed with that mission and vision, then we took that back to the steering committee, and our impact team, which is our employee-driven team, was charged then with coming up with the value statement and then also addressing the behavior standards that went around that whole new mission and vision statement. And I will say that multiple times on our journey, we've revisited those behavior standards, because as you continue to elevate your performance, the things that you expect from people change too. And so the behavior standards were updated, and then we rolled that out to our department directors. We rolled that out to our staff via town halls and newsletters and communication points and things like that. And then our board said, we really want to make sure that we're always connected to that mission and vision statement, because you're right. Once you do it and you're not in it, you're not living it, you're not seeing it, it is hard to remember that. And so they said, we really want to see that front and center. So we want to make sure that every month when we're meeting, that our mission and vision statement are part of the board packets that we use and are something that we can always reflect back on and say, yeah, we're doing this for the right reason. And so I thought that was really nice. And then the final thing was, we have a nice big rotunda lobby when you come into our organization. And so we have a lot of things posted that are related to our journey to excellence, but we wanted to make sure that that new mission and vision and value statement was apparent to not just our staff, but we also wanted to make sure that our community saw it. And so we have it posted in nice big brass letters inside our rotunda. So as you're leaving our lobby, everybody can see what our mission and vision statements are. And I think that's real important for people to always have that connection. And I talk a lot in town halls, in just about every opportunity that I can, about how important it is to keep resources local and to make sure that we're delivering on what we promised to our community. And frankly, I think what I promised to my staff, and that is that you'll always have a wonderful place to work and be successful in an organization that both supports you personally and professionally. And so I think connecting people back to that and always having that as a forum is really, really important. And so we talk about that a lot, a lot.
Taking a brief pause in this episode to make an announcement about upcoming events being held by Capstone Leadership Solutions. Our signature event in its 14th year, the 2-day Capstone Leadership Summit. It is for all healthcare leaders. It is our core curriculum of 9 core leadership practices that have been used to great results by thousands of healthcare leaders all across the country. This isn't theory. This is practical, doable tactics that are game changers for your team and your results. You can go to our website, capstoneleadership.net, and on the resource page, there is a tab for all of our upcoming events. Pick one, show up, and be a better leader day one after attending. This could seem like busy work or extra work and maybe not as purposeful work for executives and leaders and board and whatever, but what would be the business case or the selling point that organizations should maybe relook at their mission, vision, values, and then in particular, how to bring and keep them alive?
We had done an internal exercise just to try to identify some key words that we thought described the organization. Knew we'd outgrown the old one. So what are some things that you think of that speak to the things that we're doing and to the growth that we're having? And what we found was that you kept coming back to the same words. And so when we did the exercise with you, I just thought it was, number one, it was fun. And number two, it was challenging. And I think it got people really thinking about what is it that you want to say about your organization and how passionate are you about what you want to say about the organization? Because we did have, if you'll remember, there were kind of some arguments about some of the words that were chosen and did they really represent what we wanted people to think about us? And, you know, while you're right, it can seem like just funny business. I thought it created a lot of challenging conversations, and I thought that it was great that our leaders could have that kind of conversation with the board. And the board was very open to saying, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't think about it like that. You're right. And just the opportunity to interact with the board, especially at a leadership level when you don't get that opportunity a lot, I think is really, really great. And so it was a fun exercise. It created a lot of impassioned dialogue and created a little bit of conflict, which I think is always good because then it challenges you to think about something differently. You don't want 100% agreement. I want somebody to say, no, Michelle, I don't agree with that. I don't like that. And here's why I don't like it. And we had that. And so I think it was an opportunity to bring a lot of great people together to have an open and honest dialogue for the benefit of the organization. And how can that be wrong? That's always the right answer, right? The benefit of the people who work and provide this fabulous service. So it was really great. And yeah, I think it's always valuable to take a look at what you say you stand for and whether or not that's really where you are today.
Yeah. You know, what surprised me when I reflect on the activity of facilitating that with your key stakeholder group is that you would think, because primarily Capstone works with small and rural community hospitals around the country, and I've seen a lot of mission, vision, and value statements and in some cases helped facilitate the creation of them with small and rural hospitals. And you would think that their mission would be very similar, right? That We're all community hospitals. We're all rural. Our missions, our visions, our values would be very similar. But I'm always so appreciative of and noticing of the fact that even though we're similar in a lot of ways and we exist for a similar purpose, that where an organization is, the uniquenesses about that organization and the community and the group of people that work there, that there are some things that come out of that and land as the mission, vision, and values that is different. You'd almost think it would be like copy and paste and it would be almost word for word similar.
Right.
But I was surprised by
Right.
some of the words, like you mentioned, network and resources that came out as keywords and phrases and concepts that were going to drive your organization's next evolution that are different than other organizations. And it made me think, Michelle, about my own community hospital where I was an executive. And when we went on our journey to excellence, and we were more united and engaging of staff in things like mission, vision, and values. I remember when we redid ours, the word partnership came out as really a key word in our mission. And it truly changed how we approached everything with our community, with people that we thought were competitors, organizations that we thought were competitors. We now thought of them as partners. And that one word in our mission changed how we behaved and decisions we made for the next decade or more. That really changed our results and our growth. And so it does seem like just a semantics thing, but it really is a strategy thing that can be powerful. And I'm so glad you recognize that for your organization as its CEO and that others seem to have recognized it too, that it was time to redo those because we've outgrown them. So hats off for being that kind of leader, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think there's obviously a lot of pride. And I think when you work somewhere small and you know this too, that you have an awful lot of staff who have been with you for a long time and they have a lot of passion for the organization and treat it almost like their own business and their own checking book. And I think that kind of mentality is why in rural America you've got some great success stories with critical access hospitals because people are so passionate about the work that they do. The importance of keeping healthcare local and making sure that your community has access to that care. We've just, thank goodness, with your help, we've just seen remarkable things happen with our business. And I just couldn't be more proud of that when I look back over the last 9 years or so and the work that we've done and really truly continue to do. We've just recently launched into a $60 million building project that's going to help to sort of modernize our hospital proper. But we've also added a new medical office building that was 30,000 square feet, recruiting specialists, which I never thought I'd be talking about. And so that whole philosophy of network and resources and lifelong partnership, all of that, I think really does set sort of the foundation for how you behave and what you seek out inside the organization.
Mm-hmm. You know what I also see too? I mean, this is an opportunity for community hospitals everywhere, but I bet you're seeing this ripple effect too, is the impact it has on other businesses in your community. I mean, if you are showing the entire community that we can be great, we can grow, even in some of the challenging situations that we're in rural areas with funding or resources, like you mentioned, is that you set the bar for other businesses in the community to want to set similar mission, visions, and values for their businesses too. Are you seeing that maybe you're a leader in the community as a business too?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, that's a really good point. We saw a lot of excitement when we broke ground on this medical office building and had a lot of people inside the community anytime I'd be at Walmart or the grocery store, or my marketing director would be out, they'd be like, "What's going on? We see that there's some growth. We're so excited to see that the hospital's doing something new. What's going to be in there? What are you guys doing?" So yeah, that continuous growth, I think, does generate a lot of excitement in the community. And it's reassuring to people in the community to see that you're successful and that you still have a commitment to bring resources to the community that are meaningful, that are needed, and are important to the health of the community. You're right. I think when we moved to this facility in 1999, I think I had about 170, maybe 180 employees. And today we have just a tad bit over 500. And, that is obviously a huge thing for your community, because all of those employees are buying local. Most of those employees are living local. And so the economic impact that you have in your community is very, very substantial. And of course, the responsibility that you have to all 500 of those people is enormous as well. Mm-hmm. And so, we can say that, yeah, we are really, really, really proud of the economic driver we've become in our community. I would tag on to that as we have continued to grow, probably since, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years, something like that, we really have seen an added emphasis from our community team about getting out and being more active and being more visible in our community, because what we always hear is, we don't know what services you provide. And it doesn't matter how you market those services, people still don't know what you provide. And so probably over the course of the past 3, 4, 5 years, we've really made a more concerted effort to really, really be visible, whether that's our staff being visible, our providers being visible, and being visible in places where there are a lot of community people. And in our community, the 4-H thing is a big deal here and always gets a lot of people out. And so working the milkshake stand at the 4-H fair is a huge deal. So doing those kinds of things where they can connect the people that work at the hospital and have an opportunity to ask questions about what you're doing and things like that, I think are super important. And we felt that it was important enough that we had to commit some resources to specifically to a community team. And I think that's been a good decision as well.
Yeah. It helps you fulfill your mission, vision, and your values to have that kind of employee-driven efforts to engage in your community. It's amazing that the people that work at your organization, every single one of them can be your chief community relations officer, your chief marketing officers out in the community.
Absolutely.
And yeah. And so
your word of mouth campaign, there's truth to that.
Yeah, especially in small towns, right? I mean, people talk.
Exactly.
And that's why we have to give
do.
such great care too, right? Because every time they come into our organizations to receive care, it's going to be talked about after that happens, right? People do love to talk about those experiences, and we only want them to be good ones. So there's a lot of good talk we need to have in our community about what we're doing and what we're planning to do next. So I'm just cheering you on to so much more success as you keep leading your organization forward to fulfill this mission and vision that you've set out so boldly and up-leveled so much because you'd outgrown your old ones. So any last minute comments or thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we sign off on today's episode, Michelle?
Well, I think as you mentioned, that maybe the daunting task and not necessarily wanting to go down that path of truly looking at your mission, vision, values, and updating that. I would just encourage everyone to take a look at where you are inside your organization today. And if you're feeling like we're so much more than what we say we are, and we're so much bolder, we're so much more mature, and we've outgrown where we were, I just encourage everybody to take that leap of faith and certainly work with Capstone. It was, as I said, just I thought a really fun exercise that ended up with a final product that we could certainly use to our benefit. So I encourage everybody to take a hard look at what you've got and reach out if they need to.
Yeah. And if they've got something that's great, but it's just been hidden and it's a hidden gem, then do some of these things that you mentioned today that helps bring and keep it alive and front and center with the board, with the leaders, with the staff, and even the community. Such great advice there, Michelle. Thank you for your contributions again to the Culture Change RX podcast.
You're welcome. Great to be with you today.
Thanks for tuning in to Culture Change RX. If you found value in today's episode and you are a believer in fostering change in healthcare, join us in making a difference. Follow, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite platform. Share it with colleagues and your network. Together, we can make a lasting impact. Until next week, keep inspiring positive change.